Patrick said he will be able to help later, or he is not going to help us anymore?
He was interested, but he told that he's too busy for joining any of our training session. Okay. So I checked with him, and he told that we share the file with him, and he found it helpful.
Okay, so let's record this whole thing, and then yeah, we'll share it with everyone. And I presume you figured out a way to put it online, right?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Okay, everybody, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Excel sheet on my screen. Okay, we have. First of all, welcome to next step of the post NMA project. At this stage, we plan to calibrate the data extraction, and after this meeting, we will send you 3 studies and ask for extract data based on the data extraction sheet. And then after calibration, we will move forward with main activity for the data extraction. We have 160 studies that need to be extracted data. Okay, on this page, on the bottom, you can see 2 colors mainly. The left 3 colors are purple, that mainly used as the data extraction, and the left 4 or 5 tabs are used for assessing risk of bias. And the one in pink is mainly used for calculation. We prepared a calculator that you can use for calculating the data that is not provided by the studies. Okay, it is clear. Can I move forward to the next step?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. On the first tab, we ask for extracting data on trial characteristic. Please add. Okay, any question? No. First, please add the ref ID on the first column, your initial on the second column, and the first author last name on the third column, and the year. For the next group of columns, you should add the age, mean of age. We don't need the standard deviation or variability of information for age and sex. We just need to adding mean. Usually the study is reported the mean of age or mean of age for each arm of the study. You can put in this box, adding the mean, number, and the standard deviation of each arm. And if there's just 2 arms, you can add 0 for each cell here. And also,
okay, sorry, but I'm gonna interrupt you here. So if you have a 2-arm study, use the one on the above, the pooled mean for 2-arm studies. The formula is a little bit different when you have more than 2-arm studies. Go back to the calculator.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the one on top, starting from that K2 part, that's for 2-arm studies. So if you have 2-arm studies and you want to merge to give study level information, you have to use this one. And if you have more than 2-arm, then you can use the blue calculator for combining to get. There's a little bit of a difference in the formula calculations between the two, so try avoid using. So if you have a 2-arm, use the first one. If you have more than 2-arm, use a 3. You use next. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. And if just make sure that on the formula tab on top of the Excel sheet, here in calculation option, automatic calculation selected. If not, each time you should click on the manual to calculate. If but put it on the automatic, it will show you the number, because if you move from one study to another study and add the numbers here, it will not change and add any and show the previous calculation to you. And for female, we just need to report the percentage of female in whole study. Please again calculate the whole female proportion in the whole study here. And for remaining column, we try to put everything in the drop-down list. You can pick up the one that have been reported or more compatible with the study. If you are not sure about that, please use the comment or note here. And for example, for the type of laryngoscopy or the tube size or the type of tube, because maybe they reported the brand name of tube that have been used for the intubation, and you are not sure, please add the comment or note and copy and paste the phrase that have been used in this study. Any question so far?
No.
Benno, do you like to add anything?
No, good to go.
No?
Just one tiny thing. So the trial characteristic is 1 row per study. So if you have a study that has multiple rows, everything is going to go into 1 row. But then we move to the outcome worksheets, they're going to be 1 row per arm. So make sure that you have only 1 row per study in the trial characteristic worksheet. So I doubt that you will encounter a case that the tube size is different between the 2 arm, or type or the cuff pressure is different between the 2 arms. So this should not happen. But in case you had you encountered a study that has different characteristics for 2 arms, please leave a comment in that column Q section, so that we know. And you can always like contact me or Vahid and say, hey, have a look at this study. It's I don't know how to extract this information from this study, and we will definitely get back to you and help you. Sorry, Vahid, go ahead.
No worries, thank you. On the column M, we ask for adding the neuromuscular blockade that have been used during the surgery. Usually for surgery, they started with an opioid for starting and inducing the anesthesia, and then adding a gas and also a neuromuscular blockade for easier and facilitate the intubation. So please add the medicine that have been used for neuromuscular blockade. Maybe for induction of the anesthesia, they use 1 neuromuscular blockade, and during the operation, they use another 1. So there's no drop-down list here. You can add 2 medications that have been used for this purpose here. And for mean length of the intubation, anesthesia, and operation, we added 3 columns because maybe some studies just report 1 of them or a couple of them. So please report them in separate column. Is this clear? For example, one study just report the intubation period, the other one anesthesia period, and maybe reported 2 of them, 2 of 3. So please add them separately, and please don't left any cell blank. If there's not reported, add not report or error here like this, that which makes sure that there's nothing found in the study and nothing have been missed. Any question? No? So far, so good. We move to the outcome intervention section. The intervention section are arranged in 4 columns for each intervention, and we ask for adding the ideal way is to just put the name of the intervention that have been used in the study, or name of the medication or intervention. Just one word, preferred one word here, is a little bit confusing, because there are 4 arms and they use 2 interventions at the same time. One of the interventions have been sprayed in the oropharyngeal space, and the other one have been used on the endotracheal tube cuff. So we put it here to show that maybe it is a little bit confusing, and you need to add more words here. Benon, do you need to add anything for this type of interventions?
No. Try putting few words in here. Just one sentence. Just one word. What is the intervention? So no need to put the salt of the drug, for example. You don't need to put benzidamine hydrochloride, so you don't need to put the hydrochloride. That's fine. In this specific case, because it was a little bit complicated, so he put where they actually sprayed the drug, so it's fine if it's very complicated, but usually leave the details for that description column. So for intervention 1, column T, intervention column 2, column X, and so on and so forth. So try to avoid putting a lot of words in the first column that has the intervention name.
Okay,
yep,
thank you.
That's it.
And for the second column, we'd like to report the formulation that have been used. We add as much as formulation that we found in this study, but if you find anything that have not on the list, please add a comment or ask us for adding the formulation that is not included in on this list, because the code book that is the last sheet have been locked, and to avoid any change here, you cannot change anything on this sheet. So please ask us or add a comment for reporting any formulation that is not on the list. On the third column, you can add anything that you like in the description of the intervention. You can copy and paste the paragraph or the phrase that have been used in the study, and but make sure that you report the dose and any details needed here. And on the last column, you can use any of the 3 options or more than one option. For example, some intervention have been used before surgery and has been continued through the surgery, so you can add here 1 and 2. So it's not drop-down list to let you add more than one options here, and it has been repeated for the other intervention until here. There are 4 options here. If there is more than 4 intervention, that it is rare but maybe possible, please add these 4 columns and copy and paste and add these 4 columns on the space available at the end of the list. I'm done with the first sheet, and if you have any question or comments, please add.
Excuse me, I have a question. I thought that is it the first part of the extracting?
Yes. What do you mean by the first part?
I mean, for example, I thought that for extracting we should add data as numbers.
You should move to the next 2 sheets for adding for each outcome. The first one is just reporting the characteristic of the trial, the common characteristic. But on the next tab you should add the for outcome, and for the next bunch of tab you need to assess the risk of bias and add the risk of bias here. Could I answer your question or need more?
Okay, okay, I got it. Thank you.
Maybe if you can just wait for this part.
I thought
you didn't catch.
I think that, for example, if I want to add benzodiazepine in the Excel file, I should, for example, for example, I should think that benzodiazepine is a number 1 and another one is a number 2, for example, something like this. I just thought that this kind.
We try to do that as much as possible, but here for the name of the intervention, there are lots of intervention that we should prepare a very long drop-down list, and we should get through all of the studies to make sure we're not missing any interventions. So in this case, you just put the add the name, and at the end of the data extraction, maybe we add code at the time. But by now, please just put the name as short as possible.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. On the second sheet, it's used for dichotomous outcomes or binary outcomes. In this sheet, we ask for adding 1 row per arm for the trial. For example, this trial, it was 2 arms, so we add 2 rows, and the second one is 4 arms, we add 4 rows. On the first outcome, it is for the post. It's the acronym stands for post operation sort row as a binary. So in the first column, we ask for adding the definition and the threshold usually used in that study. For example, most of these studies use the scale of 0 to 10 for measuring the post, and put a threshold for define the pain or not pain. So please add the details here, and it just needs for 1 row because it should be in common for both rows, and you can copy and paste on the other tabs.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt you for a minute here.
Thank you.
Do you mind clicking on the definition for any of these? Yep, good. So first of all, remember there's no order to anything. So it doesn't matter if you put drug A as the first one or drug B in the first as the first one. And there's no connection between the trial characteristic worksheet and this one. So again, it's irrelevant. So if you put drug A in the first column or intervention 1 in the previous one, it doesn't matter if you put the same drug in here on top or on the bottom or put it first or last. Doesn't matter. As long as everything you extract is for that arm, it doesn't matter if you put it first or second or third. So that's the first thing. As for the definition, so the outcome may have been measured in this original study as a continuous outcome, but they decided to come up with a threshold or a cutoff to call it something. So an example of that would be post-surgical sore throat or pain or anything. And then they measure it using a continuous outcome, like here that they have 0 is called this, 1 is called this, 2 is called this, 3 is called that, or they go up to 10, and then they come up with a cutoff of 3 for a 0 to 10 VAS or NPRS, and call it painful or severe pain or having pain or pain relief or whatever. So this is technically a continuous outcome that is turned into a dichotomous outcome. So that's what we're interested in here. So if post-surgical sore throat is assessed as a continuous outcome, it's reported as a continuous outcome, you will have it in the next worksheet, which is in the continuous outcome. But if it is captured or reported as a binary outcome, then we will capture it here. There are going to be cases where they report the percentage or number of patients for all these categories. So in this example, what they may have done is they report this number of patients had no sore throat, this number of patients had mild sore throat, this number of patients had moderate sore throat, and this number of patients had sore throat. So in these cases that you have a categorical variable, email me or Vahid, and we'll discuss how to proceed with the data extraction. But if the study by itself decided that we're interested in mild, moderate, and severe, for example, in this case, right, Vahid? So they've called something, yeah. So they've merged anything.
1 to 3 as opposed versus 0 as no.
Correct. So we need that definition in here. So we need you to put that definition in that column E, where you tell us how they have merged different categories to create this binary outcome. Does that make sense?
Yes?
Yep.
Good.
Okay. We have 3 time periods for the follow-up time. The first one is 0 to 2 hours. The second one is 6 hours to 12 hours, and the third period is more than 12 hours to 24 hours. We ask for using the longest follow-up time in each period according to the each 3 options. Is clear? For example, if here there is 13, 14, 17, and it has been captured on an hourly basis, please add the numbers for the 24 hours in this column. And for and also we need to add the number of patients that have been analyzed rather than the number of patients that have been allocated to each arm. And at the start of the study, we prefer to have the number of analyzed for each arm here. On the second outcome is cough, and you can add the information same as the first outcome, and the third one is hoarseness. So you can extract data for these, and the last group of outcome is for adverse events. For adverse events, we have maybe a little bit complicated. We need 3 options here to categorize the study. The first one is no adverse events were reported. The second one is yes, adverse reported, but no adverse events occurred. And the third one is adverse event reported and adverse event information are available. So for the first 2, you don't need to complete the remaining columns because there's either it is no adverse event or there's no it's not occurred. So for the third one, it's required for adding the name of the adverse event and the time that have been measured or recorded, and number analyzed and number of events here. If you need more space for more than, for example, there are more than 4 adverse events, please add more columns here and add more adverse events on the next column. Benon, do you need to add anything?
No, everything is good. Go ahead.
And do you have any question? I like to move forward with the continuous outcome.
No.
No. Okay. Okay. For continuous outcome, we need to again fill each row for each arm, but and the first and the first 5 columns are the same as the dichotomous column. Here we need to add more information. First of all is the name of measure that have been used and the lowest and highest range of scale. And we need to define the direction of the scale. For example, if in some scale 0 is the it means no pain, and the 10 is the most severe pain. And in some cases the direction is in reverse. So please indicate which one is the case for that study, and use this column for reporting the if it is reported in mean, median, and LSM. And I added some information here. Let's expand it to see. And of course, I screened all the studies. None of them use LSM, but just in case if it has been missed by me, we put it here to reporting in this scale. Benna, would you please explain more about the LSM?
So there are 2 different ways that you'll find the mean of a continuous outcome report in different studies. You may see you may see it reported as a median or a mean at baseline and follow-up, and a mean for change between the baseline and follow-up. It's also possible that they use something called an adjusted ANOVA or ANCOVA analysis, in which they will report one baseline mean for both arms and something called a least square mean for the follow-up or for the change. So if something like this happens, you're going to only have one mean for both arms, and it's fine. Pick the LSM, put same number that they've reported, that just one number that they report for both arms for both groups. So they may report 2.5 as the baseline for the whole population, regardless of arms. And they will not report the baseline for both arms. It's possible they may report it. If they have reported the baseline estimate for both arms, put that in there. If they have not reported that and they reported just one estimate, put the same number for both arms, and then capture that LSM in the mean column and leave put 3 in the relative column for what it is that you're reporting. Clear?
Any question?
Yeah.
Sounds good. In the first bunch of column, you report the general information about the scale. On the next 4 column, you need to add information for the baseline measures. So here you pick up one of the numbers here, add the central tendency number, and pick up the another measure of variability from the options here, and the variability in the next column. For the next bunch of options, you need to report based on the length of follow-up for each outcome. In the first bunch of column, it is 0 to 3 hours, and for the second is 6 to 12 hours, and for the last is more than 12 hours to 24 hours. For each follow-up length, you need again to report the number of participants that have been analyzed, again, maybe it is different from the baseline at the way that have been measured the central tendency and the central measures. And on the last two columns, maybe they don't report the numbers for that follow-up period, and just report the change score that you need to add and complete these two columns. It is change score central tendency and change score variability on here. And it has been repeated for the next two follow-up time period as well. Any question?
Sorry, I might have missed this, but what does SC stand for the variability?
It's no, it is sorry, it's I should change. It's my mistake. It should be CS.
Oh, okay. Change score. Okay.
Thank you. Change the score. Let's add it to change score to avoid any confusion. Thank you. I will change it and then send you. The next two outcomes are mean time to onset of sore throat relief and mean time to resolution of the sore throat. You know, I think it should be sore throat. And here is just the time, this one time, there's no change score or anything else. It's very straightforward for adding the number, analyze, again, mean, median, or LSM, and for the variability, pick up one of the options here. And for the last outcome, if reported, is mean time to resolution of the sore throat. That again, same thing happened here as the mean time to onset of sore throat. Any question, comments, or observation? Benan, do you want to add anything? I like to move forward with the risk of bias.
No, everything seems fine, but just as a note, these last two outcomes, they may not be reported as frequently as you expect. So these are the things that we want them to report, but they seldom report this.
Okay. So I move forward with the second part of the data extraction form. We plan to use the ROP2 or risk of bias 2 tools that have been released recently for assessing the risk of bias. It's a little bit tricky, and I think you need to get through and read the instructions that have been I will send, and also it provided here on the Excel sheet. So I get through first step. You should start with the intro tab and select the risk of bias 2 assessment 4. Let me pull it here to see.
So while Wahid is bringing that up,
let me show again. If you first start with intro tab and select risk of bias assessment 4, and another windows will be open. I should bring the other one. Another window will be open, and you should fill this form. Now go ahead, Benno.
So we usually use the risk ROB tool 1.0, which is the older version that you're all familiar with. So this is the newer version of the risk bias assessment, the 2.0. And what they've done is they've made changes compared to the previous one. So they're no longer, so remember they had questions about sequence generation, allocation concealment, blinding, and missing participant data. So these were the main items for the risk bias tool of the original risk bias tool, the ROB 1.0. What they've done now in the new tool is they've created five domains, and for each domain there are questions that you have to answer. In this module, this Visual Basic creation within Excel allows the automation of the whole process. So it makes the whole process a little bit quicker. But he will explain where do you need to put information in that form. But there's also a guide, and I think Vahid was going to open that and show that to you. But there's also a guide that I think you should first have a look at it. And there's I think one or two videos that someone sent me, and I'll ask Vahid to forward you that those videos by the Cochrane that they briefly explain the tool and where you have to look in the original RCTs to figure out how to answer these questions. But the questions you'll get for each domains are technically the same kind of questions that you would previously answer to define the risk bias using the ROB tool 1.0. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. For starting working with that, first of all, I asked for starting reading the instruction on the website, and there are a couple of instruction tools here. I will send the instruction for you, and you can let's open it. There are four resources here, and the third one that is showing you in a practical way, just waiting for opening the page. It helps you in a practical way to answer the question and the options available that works for each question. And at the end of each section, it shows an algorithm to know how it works and how the software works based on this algorithm. Sorry for delay. So as long as it's opening, so on the first blank space, please add the number ref ID for here, because on the next stage, it's used this ref ID for addressing each study. And your initials here, add the same ref ID in this part, and the last name of the first author plus the year of publication here. It's not needed for adding the name of the arm. It's not because it's based on the outcome. But on the next field, you need to pick up one of the options here. The first one is assignment to ITT, and the second one is adhering to intervention or per protocol analysis or effect. For all these studies, please pick up the first one, ITT, as the main options here. Because if you don't pick up the first one, the question will be changed, and it's our main intention is to do analysis based on the intention to treat analysis. On the next part, it shows the different domains, domain 1 to 5. We don't need to do to assess the overall bias, so it's not used for this. You don't need to complete this form. Just complete the form domain and the question for domain 1 through 5. And for each one, there is 5 options: yes, possibly no, no, and no information. And at the end of the form, you can click on the risk of bias judgment, and it shows the suggestion that have been predefined based on the algorithm results. Here is the document that you can use, and the other one is also available that shows the algorithm as well. I just to first study the instruction and then assess the risk of bias for the studies that we have provided for you, because if I want to get through all the domains and explain each of them, I cannot complete it in 15 minutes. So you can get through this and study and work with this tool and ask question on a complimentary instruction meeting that we have on next week at the end of the calibration exercise. Benon, do you want to add anything?
No, so what we're going to do is there will be examples in the data extraction form that Wahid will send you for a calibration exercise. Then he will assign you similar 3 papers that you'll go through the extractions. You'll do the extractions, and then I think we agreed that we'll do it in a week. So I think 3 studies for 1 week time is a good time. You'll have enough time to play with these things, have a look at the examples, but he will provide you with, he'll send you an email that will have the link to access the risk of bias guide plus some videos that can be helpful. And if you don't have those, Wahid, I'll email that to you, the links by the end of today. And then you'll send us the Excel, your extractions. We'll go through those, leave comments. If necessary, we'll repeat the calibration exercise until we all are on the same page in terms of what needs to be extracted from the original RCTs. And feel free to email me or Wahid while you're doing the calibration exercise or while you're doing the data extractions. So at this point, everyone will extract the same 3 papers for the calibration exercise, but as soon as you're done with the calibration exercise, then we'll assign you to, we'll do it in pairs, right? So you know that. We'll assign you a partner, and you have to do the consensus with them. So that's next step. We'll talk about it after the calibration exercise is done. Any questions? Comments?
Sorry, I just had one question.
Yeah, go ahead, Daniel.
I think it was back in the trial characteristics. It was asking whether or not there's neuromuscular blockade or not.
Yep.
Do you want, like, is that the only part of the anesthesia that you want to know of? Like, do you?
Yeah, I think so. So what we did was we went back to the predictors review, so the prognosis published reviews, and to see what parts of the drug cocktail that is used for anesthesia can you know, make changes to the risk of having a longer period of sore throat or the PONV complex after the surgical procedure. And I think there were a lot of things, but we thought the most important one is this the neuromuscular blockade. The corarins are that one was the most important one. The others, you know, in terms of the drug cocktail they use, the other parts were not important. The opioids are usually the same. There's usually a muscle relaxant. There's not much different between one or another muscle relaxant. There is a little bit of a discussion about what drug is used to induce the anesthesia. So either they're using propofol, or they're using the thiazines, or they're using the ketamine, or so they use combination of all these things.
Right.
But it's very variable across studies, so it's very hard to get it. And I think a lot of those decisions are made patient by patient, not trial by trial. So
Mhm.
there may be variability within a trial. So it's not a good idea to capture something that we cannot, we're not interested in variabilities within trials. We want to capture something that there's variability between trials. So that's the only thing that we thought might be of interest.
Okay,
Is there
that makes
anything else
sense.
that
Yeah.
you've seen or you think that is important?
No, I mean, I haven't really looked into like the literature about this, so I mean, it sounds like you have. I was just curious more so like for the purposes of this, if you wanted anything else, but if it sounds like that's kind of the most important thing, and you're right, like it is really variable on patient to patient. But yeah, no, this makes sense. I was just curious. That was the reason I was asking.
Okay, good. Good. Anything else? Great. We did it quite faster than the last one, Vahid. So this
Yeah,
was
yeah.
15 minutes. It's just
Yeah,
good.
okay, thank you for joining the meeting, and I will send you in a couple of hours the data extraction sheet with the 3 studies and also the link for the ROB2 to start working. The deadline would be 1 week from today. If you cannot make the deadline, please contact me and ask for short extension. But it's preferred to complete within the deadline. Thank you and have a great time.
Great.